Good morning. Hope everyone is staying healthy and safe during this time. Um, Sticking with what everybody else is saying, I urge everyone to continue staying at home and practicing social distancing. I wanted to pass along our condolences from everybody, part of our Mountaineer football family, to the family of Coach Donnie Young. Really enjoyed uh, reading all the notes about him. Didn't know Coach Young, but have heard and read some really good things about the man. So I just wanted to send our condolences to his family. Wanted to give you a couple of updates since the last time that we've spoken. Our online classes have begun. A lot of credit to our academic staff led by Brittany Odell. They've done a tremendous job, and credit to our players. They've really responded in the proper manner, and we're off and rolling with the academic piece. And I think we'll have a really another solid semester. The Big 12 conference guidelines are in place. They weren't the last time we spoke. The health and wellness of our players is still the top priority, but we've begun to institute the 4 hours of allowable football meetings during this time. We can't monitor workouts, but Mike Joseph and the strength conditioning staff have been in contact with our players, and they're giving them workouts. Those workouts are really determined on what they have to use. So some people have access to full gym. Some of them have home gyms. Some of them only have bands and body weights and those type of things. So all the workouts are a little bit different depending on the space and what they have to use. We've been working to maintain good nutritional habits. Those are led by our director of sports nutrition, Farrell Frankel. Some of you seen some of those posts on social media. I think our guys are continuing to grow in that area. And then Vince Blankenship, our head athletic trainer, and his staff, they continue to monitor our rehab guys. We have a couple guys coming back from shoulders and 2 knees. And so they've continued to monitor those guys and doing those virtually. Our focus with our players has really been to establish a routine, a daily routine Monday through Friday that centered around academics, football meetings with their position coach. We meet twice a week as a team, getting 3 meals a day, doing their workout. We recommend some football position drills. Obviously, we can't monitor those either, but we give them recommendations on things they can do fundamentally. And really that's kind of what their day looks like. But I think it's really important during this time is to establish a routine. They're on their own. They're away from the monitoring that we normally would have, the structure that we normally would have. And so we've been really encouraging them to create their own daily routine and then really trying to establish peer accountability. I think those are important during this time. And finally, our recruiting staff, our recruiting department, I should say, and our staff continue to work extremely diligently on this class of 21 and also getting well ahead on the class of 22. I'm excited about the direction we're going in there. We had a commitment here recently, and we hope to add to that list as we go through this dead period. So we're adjusting. The recruiting is going to be a lot different for this class. There obviously won't be any spring evaluation period. Summer camps, I don't see those happening. I could be wrong, but we're planning at least for the month of June for those not to take place. But that's kind of an update program-wise in every one of our areas. With that, I'll open up to questions.
Go ahead, Greg Hunter.
So, Coach, you said 4 hours a week. You break that down a little bit. Some of it's obviously position group specific. Any of it individual? How much is video work? How do you do it?
Yeah, so all good questions, Greg. And so what we're doing is basically a daily check-in at 10 a.m. Eastern. And so on Tuesday and Thursdays, we do team meetings. On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we do position meetings. And so those are the only time that we're dictating when the coaches meet with them. They have 4 hours. We have to chart those for compliance reasons. And so we're doing full position meetings 3 times a week. And those are usually between 30 and 45 minutes. And then the position coach has the latitude to meet either in small groups or one-on-one to use the rest of the time. What we figured out during this, and we when we're on campus and we're in a normal schedule, we don't meet for a long time. I think that 30 minutes for most position groups. I think maybe quarterbacks, O-linemen can go a little bit longer, but we try to stick about 30 minutes. On these Zoom meetings, we figured out, 15 to 20 minutes is probably the max. Give them a break, or we try to break them up. We're doing some book studies and a couple other things to try to grow our connectedness during this time, even though we're apart. But we're using video. We're using voice. We're trying to quiz to inspect what we expect. And it's really, it's a new time for coaches as well. We've never really had to teach virtually or teach remotely, however you want to say it. So we quiz our players to really see how well we're actually doing as teachers. And so, but we're using all types of technology, and the only thing we can't do is we don't have the video other than the first 2 practices. We don't have the video that we normally would have in position meetings.
Go ahead, Derek Red.
Hi, Neal. Thanks for coming back and talking with us this week.
No problem. I know there's not a whole lot of sports information going, so
Yeah.
I can give you some valuable stuff maybe y'all can do something with.
Yeah.
I think Derek got muted there. Let me see what we can do for him.
Yeah, my back?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. And when you're talking about the hurdles to remote learning, what do you feel have been kind of the biggest hurdles you found, and in terms of not having that face-to-face in-person contact, and also with the move toward, you're talking about leaning on peer accountability, do you think that might even help grow this team closer, because you're really having to lean on the individual players, leaning on each other in this time, and kind of have to really kind of, not say force the bond, but really strengthen that in time, and when you guys the coaches don't have the ability to talk with them?
Which says I'm muted. Grant, can you hear me? Okay, you got it unmuted. So we're trying to do it in 2 different ways. Position groups, which you're with a lot of the times. Those are usually really close. You're really close with those guys in your position groups. The second type of accountability is our accountability teams that we do that run from January through right up into the first day of fall camp. So we're trying to do that in 2 measures. I do think long-term it will be beneficial. I talked about it a little bit last time we were all together, is it's forcing us to be a player-led team rather than a coach-led team at this point. I probably wouldn't have thought we were ready for that. So it's we've had to push the accelerator on that. And so I do think long-term it'll be a positive. To answer your first question, what are the difficulties of online meetings, those type of things? I think we're learn them as we go. There wasn't really a plan. It's not something we covered. So we're learning as we go. The first hurdle we really had to do is get to where our guys understood that they needed to approach these meetings just like they would if we were in our football facility. And so finding a place in their home or wherever they're at, their apartments or wherever they're at, and make sure they're sitting down, make sure they have something to write on, make sure they're dressed appropriately, all those type of things, and really in the mindset of learning. because, you know, you can easily be in the car. You can, you know, it's a foreign concept because they're on their phones or iPads or computers, whatever they are. But they've got to sit there and be present just like they would in a meeting.
All right, go ahead, Keenan Cummings.
Thanks, Neal. Appreciate you doing this again.
Yeah, no problem, Keenan.
How innovative, how creative, what do you guys have to do differently that maybe you wouldn't have to do in terms of recruiting right now? I mean, obviously video, virtual tours, all that stuff. How innovative do you have to get?
Well, we have to use a lot of video. So virtual tours, bringing in not only the coaches, but also our different departments into the recruiting process. And to the credit, many of our professors have been extremely helpful as far as getting on FaceTime calls, answering questions with our academic people. So those are much appreciated. Brittany Odell, Mike Joseph, Farrell Frankel, those individuals in academic strength conditioning, nutrition, they're being brought into the recruiting process via phone now, or most of the time those happen on campus. We're having to take, and it, especially to those guys that haven't been on campus yet, we're having to take our product to them. So we've filmed videos. Our campus, WVU in general has a great virtual tour, so we've utilized that. But we've also things that are unique about our culture, unique about the way we do things. We've done videos and been able to get those to the families and the recruits that haven't been here. And then the other thing that I think it goes back to, there's all these newfound techniques that you got to do as far as videos and graphics and all that. But the most important thing you got to do during this time is just connect and use communication tools, whether it's DMs, whether it's text, whether it's get those guys calling you and getting on the phone, not only with them, but their families. I think that's the best tool. That's the best thing we can do. And that's as far as recruiting, that's the most useful thing that we can do right now.
Go ahead, John Antoniuk.
Curious, once you get past this, I know talent is a determinant in who wins games and so forth, but do you think the staffs that maybe are the most organized could be maybe a determinant as you move forward and you look, when you get into the coaching staffs that are the best organized or so forth? I think that could be a determinant in how performance is this year, particularly if you're in a scramble mode?
Yeah, John, I think that's the hope. That's the hope. I mean, we're constantly looking for edges. How can we create an edge during this time that no one expected, no one planned for? How can we create an edge? I think there's ways to do that. How can you connect the most with your team? How can you create a culture of accountability? How can you teach? What are your expectations when we do return? I think those are all things that we're trying to do to create an edge. I do think how programs are able to handle from, March, whatever that was, 12, 13, to whenever we return, which nobody knows. That's the whole uncertainty about this. And somebody will probably ask me, when do you think we're going to play? I don't know. All I know is it won't be me making that decision. And so it's basically I'm in a deal where I'm going to do what I'm told, and we're going to do what we're told as a program. When they say we can come back, we're going to be ready. But I think however you handle this is going to have a distinct impact on how your team performs in the fall now, or whenever we play. Now, it'll be the most important thing, but I think you can create some edge, and you can make positive. You can create some momentum, and you can get yourself better during this time.
All right. Just a reminder, if you have a question, to use the raise hand feature. Go ahead, Kevin Kinder.
Coach, I know you're going to follow university and Big 12 and NCAA policies on getting ready, coming back, all those things. For you as a player, though, how long did it take you to get into game shape? And when if you were going through this, as an athlete, how long do you think it would have taken you to say, yeah, I'm ready to play a game?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the question that everybody's trying to figure out right now. When I was a player going into college, right at the time when I was coming in is kind of when everybody started going to summer school. That started to become what was normal in college football. And I think everybody's become accustomed to that. Is basically you get 8 weeks of summer strength conditioning to get yourself in a position where you can go into fall camp. And as that became more and more of the regular in college football, you saw fall camp get more condensed to where we're at now, which is 25 practices. And before that, a little bit before that, most time the college players went home during the summer, and then fall camp was longer, so you had more of an opportunity to get into shape. I don't know exactly what that time frame looks like. I think you're probably looking in that 4 weeks or so to get yourself in shape. I think what it does, I think it's different. Your big guys really got to get in a position where they can have strength and be able to have impact and things like that. Your skill guys got to get in more of a cardio and be able to have short bursts and things like that. So I think, and I'm just ballparking, these are just some conversations that Mike and Vince and we've had, even Shane and I've talked about it as well, and I think that 4 to 6 weeks is kind of the framework that we've talked about. I think you got to have some kind of lead into fall camp, just because of how short it is now. You're basically looking about 3 weeks or so. So I think you got to have some lead up. I think if you don't, you put your players at a risk for soft tissue injuries, even maybe into the concussion realm, because so much of concussions is what you do through your neck and really training those type of muscles.
All right, go ahead, Jerry.
Hi, good morning, Neal. Thanks for your time. My question is a big picture type of question. With everybody having their spring practices canceled, and these summer workouts that these guys do on their own, those are probably up in the air too. What do you think college football overall around the country is going to look like this year? What will be the difference that we'll be able to see on Saturdays because all the spring and summer work has pretty much been, out the window?
Yeah, the quick answer is I don't know, because we've never had to do this before. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, some programs, that's where it's not necessarily an equal playing field. We had 2 spring practices. Some haven't had any. Some have had 7 to 10 practices, and there's a couple that were all the way done with spring football. And so it's really kind of uneven across the board in college football as far as that's concerned. I do think your early games, because the biggest thing that you're losing on this is just repetition. All right, the strength conditioning is, but let's just say let's assume that everybody's doing what they're supposed to, and I think that would be off. But let's just assume that all these players that play Division I football are doing what they're supposed to do, and they're doing the workouts, and they're sleeping and they're eating, and let's say they're doing all those things leading into the season. The biggest thing that you can't make up is the timing of the plays that you get in the spring, those repetitions that you log, and then even without coaches, the stuff that the kids do on their own during the summer, those repetitions, you don't get those back. So I think early in the season, the product, I don't know if your regular fan would be able to tell as much, but I don't think the product would maybe be as clean. I think as you get to the mid part of the season, I don't think you'll see much fall off. I think what you'll see also is probably programs being a little bit more basic, because you don't have as much time to teach and rep the things that you normally would.
Go ahead, Alex Hickey.
All right, Neal, the benefits of early enrolling are usually pretty obvious, but for those guys in this situation, just are you still seeing it, or did you see it working for those guys? And just what's the situation you think they're in?
Well, I think each of those situations is unique. I think it's important to note too. We're not in the business of pushing kids to do that. If the student athlete and their parents want to do that, then we support it. It's a win for us. But we're not in the business of pressuring kids to do it, because I think if I've seen it work opposite, where if you pressure a kid into doing it, it doesn't work, and they really never recover from that. So we don't make a push to do that. I do still think that it'll be beneficial for Ja, for Garrett, for Reese, for those guys, because they're going to have a major leg up on the rest of the class when they get here, whenever it is, because they're going to know the system. They're going to be able to. They're having all these meetings and stuff right now, where our signees can't be involved in those, and so they're still going to have a significant leg up, and they're going to still have the college credits that they wouldn't. And from an academic standpoint, they're going to have college credits. So is it as impactful as it normally would, because they would have all 15 spring practices? I would say that's fair. I would say no. But I do think there's still going to be a large amount of benefit that they will receive from graduating early.
Go ahead, Mike Kazaza.
Hey, Neal, how's it going?
Good. Mike, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. You mentioned previously, I think today and even last time too, but getting ahead on recruiting and all that. I was wondering similarly what your analysts are able to do, because probably not doing a whole lot of spring breakdowns, and I'm guessing that your opponents maybe haven't evolved too much from what they were because there's no spring. Are their jobs any different? And then, if you don't mind, a second one, just the Jeff Castile hiring and what you knew about him and what you've so far discovered about him.
So, answer the first question as far as analysts go. What we've done is basically we've taken normally what they would do in the month of May and then in the summer, and we've attacked that now. So that's some professional development and at the NFL and at the collegiate level in all three phases of things that we're interested in growing from. You do a little bit of that in February, but more of that's done in the month of May and June and July. So they're doing a lot of studies on that, and then helping with some opponent breakdowns as well. And so what I mean by that is we're trying to get. We always do a summer opponent breakdown. So when we get into fall camp and we say, okay, the opponent of the day is Florida State, then we have a really good feel of how they're going to line up in the years past. So we're not guaranteed how they're going to line up in game one, but what they've done in the past on offense, defense, special teams. When we go to Eastern Kentucky, Maryland, we have those where we already got a based on what they've done in the past, and we work on preparing for those. So we're doing those now. We're in a normal case, we would do them leading into what we call our staff retreat at the end of July. So that's kind of what they're doing. And they're working with their position coach that they would normally be and on some daily task. So that's kind of some insight on what they're doing. As far as Jeff Castile he's had a ton of success here. I'll start with this. He's the right kind of guy. He's about the right things. He's from West Virginia. He loves WVU and WVU football. He's been a part of some of the best errors and the biggest wins here. As position coach, as defensive coordinator, he's somebody that I've always had a lot of respect for as far as a football coach. So we wanted to add some experience. I think with experience, you gain wisdom. He's obviously has a lot of experience, a lot of wisdom, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's important to note, too, that he won't just help us defensively. He's going to help us from an offensive standpoint as well, because he's going to give us really good insight. And this is one of the first things he did was go back and look and really scout us from an offensive standpoint. And what did he see? What did he see as things we did well? What are things that he felt like as a defense coordinator he could take advantage of? so he's got a multitude of things that he can really help our program with. And he had a desire to get back to this area. His wife was here, his daughter's here. So we're excited that he's a part of it.
Go ahead, Greg Hunter.
So Neal, outside of just hands-on working with players again at some point, suggestions that you have that you started to develop that I'd like to be able to do this. This is reasonable. Maybe in a few weeks they'll open this up. Do you have any of those suggestions?
After yesterday, I'll probably stay away. No, I think this is it's really a difficult deal. You're preparing for so many unknowns. I think, and this is what I talked to our staff about this morning, is that from a football standpoint, I'm just talking about just from a football standpoint, is we've got to have expectations for whenever we do return. Whatever date that is we got to clearly define what those expectations are. What do we expect our players to know when we get back? That's July 1. What do we expect them to know July 1? That's September, whatever it is. What do we expect them to know? All right, let's define those expectations. What kind of shape do we expect them to be in? Let's define those expectations so they know, so everything that we're doing from now to whatever that date that's unknown out in the future, let's define that so they can work towards that. And that's what we're trying to do is, hey, these are our expectations when we get back.
Go ahead, Alex Hickey.
Neal, the coaching life balance is usually a difficult thing to juggle with family time and stuff. Just what benefits have you seen, I guess, these past few weeks? Have you sort of been able to appreciate other elements of life more than you have usually?
No, and there's no doubt. I mean, obviously this is a tragedy. This is a worldwide tragedy. It's affected our football family here. I think probably affected most people on this call here. This is a tragic event. I do think there's going to be some positives in each of our lives that come from this. I think sometimes, and I wouldn't have done this. You know, you hit pause, and we were forced to hit pause. It wasn't like we voluntarily did this. We were forced to hit pause, and there's going to be positives that come from this. I think it's positives in every bit of your life. So your personal, your spiritual, your professional. I think you're going to have real growth during this. I think that being able to spend this time with my family is something that I've really enjoyed. I wish what happened under the circumstances. But it's something that I've really enjoyed, whether it's being able to go in the yard and teach Dax how to throw and play T-ball, which is definitely harder to do than teaching a quarterback who to throw it to when they're open. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm having to use my wife's element. Like, so basically what I do is I teach the technique, and my wife like translates it to the 5-year-old. You know what I mean? And but being able to do things like that, having a real appreciation for teachers, especially, you know, I've got a 6th grader, I've got a 3rd grader, and I've got a pre-K, and having a greater appreciation for what they do on a daily basis, and seeing the sacrifice they're doing and how they're doing this online education, and then actually taking some of their ideas that they're using and trying to incorporate with our team. And so new appreciation for all the stuff that goes on in the house that really I never really thought about it, just things get done. So probably a new appreciation for my wife. Understanding how to use technology better and how we can be more efficient with that, how we can be more productive with that through technology. That's something that's really grown here in the last month. So I do think there's positives. Now, do those positives outweigh the tragedy of this? No, absolutely not. But I think there are some real positives coming out of this.
All right, we'll go ahead and take 2 more questions. Then we have Carly.
Coach, have you seen any players specifically, step up and show initiative during this time, and how specifically can they do so, virtually for your team?
Yeah, so I think within our team, some of our guys have done some PSAs that have been helpful. I think we're getting ready to roll out some things where several of our guys are doing, and some of this we're doing on social media, some of it we're not. We're just sending it directly to schools where our guys are reading stories. They're doing some video things they're doing for the Children's Hospital, some different things like that. I think that they are realizing during this that it's bigger than them, without question. I think it's been positive to see some guys that have platforms in college football use them, and the NCAA allow them to do that. We don't necessarily have anybody within our program right now that has that type of platform, but Trevor Lawrence, Sam Ehlinger, some of those guys using the platform they have to raise some money. I think that's been real positive, just looking at college football as a whole.
All right, last question from John Antonik. Go ahead, John.
I feel uncomfortable not having Coach Hunter ask the last question. It's kind of bad luck, isn't it? Kind of like
we'll go one more. Grant's new to this. We'll go one more. We'll let Greg ask the last one, John.
Now, just along the lines of what I was asking before about, I guess when you get back into this, I guess simple is going to be maybe more important than complicated when you're dealing with your guys and you're getting your guys prepared, particularly when you don't know how long it's going to be or how much time you're going to have.
Yep. And in my experience, sometimes it's not bad, and that's something that we've been evaluating anyway. And I think I even spoke to this in the press conference we did before spring is I think that as a program in all three phases, we were attacking the spring to be better at a few things, than trying to master a bunch. And so I think that'll even expedite that even further by being away. Greg, finish us up here.
All right. Well, I will take the last one then. So what about yourself? I mean, do you find yourself just mentally spinning? You got too much time to think of too many things?
I really thought that when I got going on this, but my days have been pretty packed, honestly. Whether it's we do staff meetings, we do a recruiting meeting. I'm on the phone a bunch, either on FaceTime or just regular phone calls with recruits and their families. I bounce around to all the Zoom position meetings or our Zoom accountability meetings we have with our players. The time we spent with coaches doing some professional development, trying to get ideas and share ideas with other coaches in the profession, how they're handling this, because it's new for everybody. So I think you always got to utilize your resources. So honestly, and doing stuff to help Brooke, and my days have been pretty full. More, my wife was really worried about me thinking I was going to go crazy, but it's actually found ways to stay busy every day. So hopefully this weather will keep up and we can continue to get outside, and that helps.